All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick. Got boots on the ground here at Churchill Downs in the media centre in the fine state of Kentucky. We're going to talk about the Oaks, then we'll talk about the Kentucky Derby as well, naturally. So let's bring in Nick Luck right now. Nick, who will be on the broadcast. Thank you for joining us, mate. We appreciate it. Let's get straight into the Oaks. I want to ask you about the favourite, Wet Paint, who's at 5-2. Can a true closer, Nick, win a 14-horse field?
She might be able to, even though her trainer didn't sound that confident when he was interviewed yesterday. Obviously thought her form claims were outstanding, which they are. She is the absolute standard. And I actually think 5-2, if you were to go off 5-2, that's a pretty good price. Because I think she lays over the field on what she's achieved. Obviously, the question mark is the pace going to be contentious enough for her to be able to get into the race? And she kind of needs to be allowed to do her own thing. It seems to be the way she's best ridden. Flavien Prat just leaves her to her own devices and she just gets there and then looks quite dominant. I think the presence of one filly in this race is key, and that is Flying Connection, for two reasons. First, she's very, very fast. I don't think she's going to get home. She could set it up for Wet Paint, and she could also mess around Wet Paint, stable companion, Botanical on the lead. So I think Flying Connection's presence in the race tips the balance of the Cox. Well, Brad's got 3 in the race, but tips the balance of the Cox market leaders in the favour of Wet Paint. Will she quite have time to get there, Wet Paint? Or will there be a filly or fillies between the pace and the closers? And that's kind of where I'm looking tactically in the race. I'm trying to get the front of the market beaten with horses who have a perfect stalking trip in the race, and then it's trying to work out which ones they're going to be.
Okay, so it sounds like you're more on the not inclined to back Botanical based on just being too on the pace and maybe burning out. No concern for you about kind of having never run on dirt?
Yeah, that's more the reason. The fact she's been doing it all at Turfway. I mean, she has looked very good. And the fact she can run fast on whatever surface. She's got basic speed. But because of the presence of another confirmed front runner in the race, so I think he's going to put it right up to her. And because she's never had a chance to shine on this surface before, and it's all been at Turfway, I'd be inclined to look elsewhere at the current odds. I think there's a couple who are drawn to the outside who are very interesting and on the upgrade, and they are Affirmative Lady and Pretty Mischievous. Affirmative Lady is a filly trained by Graham Motion, who is, by nature, quite a circumspect sort of trainer. He tends not to overface his horses. And she, I thought, really looked to have come of age last time down in Florida. The fact that Velasquez gets back on her has got to be a massive plus. He rode her the first 3 lifetime starts. And I can see her running a bold race. But the one I prefer is Pretty Mischievous in the first-time blinkers for Brad Cox. I think the trainer, for Brendan Walsh, sorry. The trainer's always held her in incredibly high regard. She's got a beautiful pedigree for this job. I think the blinkers will just enable her to sit that little bit handier. The trainer felt she lost application last time when she was beaten in the Fairground Oaks. If they just bring a forward step, this race could set up perfectly for her. She loves an outside gate. She loves a strong pace. And she loves this track. And so does the trainer. So I'm going to play Pretty Mischievous, and I'm going to have Affirmative Lady right in the mix as well. And I'll have Wet Paint not quite getting there. So I'll use Wet Paint underneath the two outsiders who are on the outside.
Well, Nick, I had eyes for Pretty Mischievous all along, and I've been losing confidence, particularly with the blinkers decision, because sometimes that doesn't go well. But she was unbelievable in the Rachel Alexandra, and I do like an Oaks horse that's coming off of not having one last race. It just tends to kind of get a little bit more out of the horse next time coming. So you've renewed my confidence in Pretty Mischievous, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do think it's a race that could develop with the finishers down the outside. I think Pretty Mischievous loves it out there. I think Affirmative Lady will be with her. And Wet Paint's going to be finishing fastest of all, but is it going to be too late?
Okay, Pretty Mischievous and Affirmative Lady both 10-1 at the moment. All right, before we get to the Derby, a reminder to download the RotoWorld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster, get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in the App Store today. All right, let's talk about the Derby. So we are here. Forte, 3-1 is the favourite. Do you think the Forte is priced correctly, and how short do you think Forte might get as we get closer to post?
I'd be a layer rather than a backer at 3-1. Not because there's anything wrong with Forte. He's a thorough professional who's done everything right through his career. Excellent 2-year-old, and he's carried it on. But because I think there is depth here. There's depth of promise. There's depth of talent. There's horses who are going to take a big, big step forward, many of whom are likely to take a bigger step forward than he can because he's done it all. So at what price does he become a bet? Probably for me around 9-2, 5-1, he becomes a bet. At the price he is at the moment, he's a fade or a lay.
Yep, strong agree with you there. And, I guess as you kind of are handicapping the field, price is obviously, enormously important. And once you get past whether you're fading the favorite in this race or not, the next serious question for me comes, what do you do with Derma Sotogake?
Yeah.
And really, that is, this is such a tough question because number one, shippers traditionally not doing great here, and to put it politely. But what is your read on this horse generally? Do you think he'll be on or near the lead? And do you think ultimately he'll take money or drift?
Very good question. I suspect I suspect people's parochial instincts will come to the fore when push comes to shove. If you believe the market is going to be principally dictated by the broadest spread of money of the whole year, then I think he's got to drift. Normally, the point about UAE Derby winners coming into this race and or Japanese trained horses, and they're quite often one and the same thing, is they're just too slow and don't get into it, or they're too slow and they're ridden as though they're not slow. I mean, the fastest way to get a slow horse beaten is to ride him like he's a quick horse. And that has been an issue for Japanese horses in this race in the past. They've either got going too late or they've been used up like last year too early and they're a spent force by the end of the race. Now, in contrast to the horses that we've just mentioned, this horse does actually look to have some genuine speed and some genuine credentials. The vibe around him is better than it has been for quite a lot of the other Japanese horses. And that time in the UAE Derby was really strong. And I think the track was legit in Dubai that day as well. Sometimes it can change massively as the day progresses, and it can get slower and slower and slower. It seemed to ride pretty uniform, and so the times are a very good one. And of course, the fact that he once thrashed the horse who's an AE who himself ran Practical Move very close in California just gives you that scintilla of hope that you've got a bit of collateral form to cling to. But all that said and done, I don't like him. So he's now not in 17. And also the idea in Dubai this year, I had to do about 5 interviews with interpreters for various connections. So I'm just girding my loins for another one of those.
This is all fascinating because, I kind of want to pivot to California now, and I'm going to do it in a way that's kind of leans on your last answer. So Mandarin Hero runs a very, very close call in the Santa Anita Derby. Practical Move with a pretty uninspiring win against Mandarin Hero, even with the perfect trip, in my opinion. Now, Mandarin Hero is a true B horse on the Japanese circuit, whereas Derma Sotogake was an A horse. And so you come out of that thinking, well, man, how good could Derma Sotogake be if Mandarin Hero was challenging one of the, kind of top tier horses in this race? But then the other side of the coin is, well, maybe this California crop is just somewhat weak. What is your general read on Practical Move at 10-1, and in general the California horses to this point in the season?
I think the strength of the California form is questionable simply because there's not a deep enough pool of horses. There's not a deep enough pool of horses for them to really test one another. You had a 4-horse graded race early in the Kentucky Derby Trail that was Baffert, or it would now be Yaktine. And to that end, I'm not sure, as I say, that the pool is that strong. I think it all comes down with Practical Move as to whether you believe the figures or not. 3 triple-digit buyers. He on that basis, he's the fastest horse in the race. People who know more about speed figures than me suggest that at least one of those was a bit phony. I just don't think he's taken on deep enough group of horses for me to really like him. But I'd be delighted for the trainer if he won. But I'm going to have to watch him win, I think.
Yeah, Nick, Tappet Trice, second shortest horse on the board at 5-1. Is there any value there? You're putting more stock in the fact that Tappet Trice has won 4 straight races, or the fact that the starts have been pretty rocky?
I think he can definitely win because I think he's probably the most talented horse in the race. But I don't think 5-1 is particularly generous, and he just needs the trip to go right for him. He needs to get out. He needs to get out from the inside draw, get in out from underneath the inside draw, and have a nice clean trip. If he gets a nice clean trip and a clear sight at the front as the race begins to sort of break apart, then I think he's got a great chance, because he's a great luxury liner of a horse. He's not fast twitch. He's not slow. But he's just a cruiser. He's a liner. He's not a speedboat. And I thought this was a lovely performance. The horse in second there, Verifying. I give him a bit of a shot. They're going to go forward with him. 2's not an ideal gate, but they'll go forward with him. He's a horse who I like on pedigree and on the way that he's progressing. But you look at that again, Tappet Trice, I think, has beaten him quite comfortably. And it's hard to argue that the further they go, the better Tappet Trice won't be. Do you see what I mean? So I think it's all a question of whether he gets a nice, clear run at this race.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it in the video. Tappet Trice is like looking at the stands, and he's passing him with somewhat of ease. I kind of had Tappet Trice circled as a horse to bet at the Belmont, assuming he runs. Other folks in the community have kind of said, well, give him some more time. Look, circle him for the Travers, circle him for the Breeders' Cup Classic. And that makes sense to me, because he does look like a horse that will have staying power throughout the summer and get better and better as we get into the fall. So Tappet Trice for me, circled later on the calendar, not expecting him to necessarily get the best of the trip here, because I'm not really setting this up as an especially fast-paced race. Now, I could be assuming wrong. I think that last year's pace meltdown is probably, first and foremost on the minds of a lot of people strategizing for this race. And for that reason, I think we could see a little bit of a slower start to this one, which I think opens the door for horses that are on the lead, like Verifying. What's your general response to that? Do you think that this could be a little bit slower start just based on there not being a lot of early speed? And does that kind of set up a race where a horse on the lead could hold on for a win?
What do we think is going to go forward? Jace's Road from the outside, Verifying maybe from the inside. The Cox horses, none of them are going to be too far away. Angel of Empire is not going to be too far away. I wouldn't have thought either. Brad Cox, I think, possibly holds the key to how fast this race is run. I suspect. I don't think it's going to be a burn up like it was last year. But nor do I think that you're going to be able to go out there and walk the dog like Medina Spirit did when he passed the post in front. I think it should be a fair race from a pace and tactical point of view. I don't think there's going to be a major edge to be garnered either by being right on the pace or being a closer. I don't think it's going to fall into one extreme or the other.
Yep. All right, last one for you, Nick. Prediction time. What is your final prediction and a best bet on the board?
Okay, I've toyed with quite a few of these. And the truth of it is that I can't rule out that many with great confidence.
Yeah.
In the end, I resolved that I would be including Tappet Trice in however I play the race, because I think he's just too talented a horse not to. I think the raw ability is there, and he's just sort of, if he goes and wins, you just think, yeah, well, I knew he was the best horse. Why didn't I back him? Do you know what I mean? So he'll be in there. He'll be in the mix. There are more appealing prices, I think.
Yeah.
I believe King's Barnes will run very well. I think he's a horse with an impeccable temperament. He's nowhere near the finished article. I don't think the occasion's going to get to him, and I think he'll gallop out all the way to the line. And he's got a little bit of tactical pace. I'm sure he'll run a nice race. I don't know whether he's quite good enough, but I think he's got a lot of attributes, and he's next door to his stable companion there in 6. So I think he's in the mix, and I do like Confidence Game as well. Look, it's somewhat coincidental, but they're all drawn around each other, 4, 5, and 6. I'd probably rather they were, I don't know, 7, 8, and 9 or something like that. But Confidence Game, I think, is a horse that is not getting the respect he deserves at 20-1. He's got a verdict over quite a few of this field. I don't like the 5-week layoff particularly. Not because Keith Azome can't get a horse fit off 5 weeks, but I can't work out quite why he's done that.
Yeah,
I can't believe it was the original intention. But the horse looks very well now. He's training very well. He did a great workout at the weekend. I think the trainer he's unconventional, but he's very, very good. And he's been second in the race before with Exaggerator. He seems to have confidence. The horse is bred for it by Candy Ride out of a half to Zenyatta. It's a very appealing set of credentials, I think. And I'd be probably more worried about the layoff if the horse hadn't had a half dozen runs or 5 runs as a 2-year-old. So at least he's got that kind of conditioning and seasoning. And to that end, I think he's got to be in there as well. So those are the 3 that I'm toying with at the moment.
Okay, I like it. Yeah, a lot of momentum behind Tapit Trice,
Yeah.
it seems like. And I like the long shot of Confidence Game at 20-1. All right, Nick, thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell people where to follow you and anything to plug?
My Twitter handle is @NickLuck. I never miss the opportunity to plug the NBC shows, which, of course, you guys have been doing on Bet the Edge. We'll be on air all of Oaks Day and Derby Day. Oaks Day on USA and Derby Day on NBC itself. You tune in for 7.5 hours of live coverage on day, which I can't wait for. It will go by in a heartbeat, and that final hour is just the most enjoyable piece of television to be involved with. If I can figure out where the trainers that I'm supposed to be walking over are, it makes it even. What you really want to make sure is that the second one is not in front of the first one, and you don't have to try and sprint past the whole of the field without scattering all the runners in the world's most prestigious horse race, which has been known to happen once before.
Absolutely.
But yeah, can't wait. Really looking forward to it, and I never missed the chance to plug my my daily podcast, Nick Luck Daily, which you can get every weekday from very early in the morning Eastern time and generally mid-morning British summertime.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for your time, Nick. We appreciate it. Speak to you soon, mate.
Not a bit. Thanks, guys.
Cheers. All right, Drew. Any final thoughts? Anything you're looking forward to? You're giving out your predictions tomorrow, I believe. But yeah. Anything in the meantime?
I got more work to do, man. We gotta go back to the lab. Got to put together some more pace numbers. I like Nick's point of view on all this. Ultimately, I think I'm probably going to have to lay off Tapit Trice because of the price and because he's going to need such a perfect trip. But I do agree with Nick's point of view that this class of 3-year-olds in a year when we reflect on it, I think we're going to say that Tapit Trice was the best of them. So missing out on an opportunity to be at the front of that train is definitely part of the equation for me.
Okay, well, we'll get your final predictions tomorrow. In the meantime, don't forget to check out NBCSportsEdge.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks everyone watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel, and please rate and subscribe us if you're listening to us as a podcast. From Churchill Downs, boots on the ground. We will see you tomorrow. Cheers.